The ancient minivan, packed to the brim with camping gear and the lingering scent of stale snacks, coughed its last breath just as the low fuel light blinked a desperate warning. Inside, 16-year-old Jake sighed, running a hand through his perpetually messy hair. Beside him, his younger sister, Maya, 14 and glued to her phone, finally looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of boredom and alarm. "Seriously, Jake? You let us run out of gas here?" she accused, gesturing vaguely at the endless stretch of dark, winding road. "Relax, genius," Jake retorted, though his voice lacked conviction. "There's a gas station just up ahead. Saw it on the map. Probably one of those old-school, no-frills places." As if on cue, a faint, pulsing light appeared in the distance. It wasn't the vibrant, welcoming glow of a modern service station, but a dim, almost sickly green, like something decaying slowly in the dark. "That's a gas station?" Maya asked, her nose wrinkling. "It looks like a haunted shack." "Beggars can't be choosers," Jake muttered, coaxing the minivan forward. The engine sputtered a few more times, then died with a final mournful shudder, just as they coasted into the crumbling asphalt lot. Silence descended, thick and heavy, broken only by the chirping of unseen insects and the faint, unsettling whine of the wind. The station revealed itself as they got closer. It was a single, dilapidated building, its windows boarded up in places, the remaining panes so grimy they reflected nothing but shadows. A faded, hand-painted sign, barely legible in the dim light, read, "The Gulp and Go." Two rusty pumps stood like forgotten monuments, their hoses cracked and their meters frozen. There were no other cars, no sound but the distant hum of the minivan's struggling engine. A shiver traced its way down Maya's spine. "This place gives me the creeps," she whispered, pulling her jacket tighter. "It's just old," Jake said, trying to sound brave. He tried the door to the station building. It groaned open, revealing a dimly lit interior. "Hello," he called out, his voice echoing slightly. A figure emerged from the shadows behind the counter. He was a man of indeterminate age, with a gaunt face and eyes that seemed to hold an ancient weariness. His uniform, a stained brown apron over a faded shirt, hung loosely on his frame. A name tag, barely visible, read Jedediah. "Evening," Jedediah rasped, his voice like dry leaves skittering across pavement. "Just you two tonight. What can I get for ya?" "Just a full tank, please," Jake said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "And maybe some water?" Jedediah nodded slowly, his gaze lingering on Jake for a moment too long. "Pump one. Come in when you're done." Jake got out, stretching. Maya, who had been trying to get a signal on her phone, frowned. "My phone's completely dead, Jake. And my tablet. No signal, no power." "Mine too," Jake said, pulling out his own phone, its screen stubbornly black. "Must be this place. Probably too far out from any towers." As Jake wrestled with the old pump, which seemed to resist his efforts to pull out the nozzle, Maya stepped out of the minivan. The air was strangely still, not a breath of wind, yet she felt an inexplicable chill. It wasn't the cold of the desert night. It was a deeper, more unsettling cold, as if something vital had been sucked from the air around her. She looked at the pump, its numbers ticking up slowly, and a strange thought flickered through her mind. Tonight, the gas station wasn't just selling fuel. It was taking something. Jake finally got the nozzle into the tank. The pump began to hum, a low, resonant thrum that seemed to vibrate not just through the ground, but through Maya's very bones. She watched the numbers climb, and with each digit, she felt a subtle, almost imperceptible drain. It was like a tiny, invisible string being pulled from her chest, a thread of warmth or energy. She shook her head, dismissing it as fatigue. "This thing is slow," Jake complained, leaning against the minivan. "I'm gonna go grab some sodas." "Maya, you want anything?" Maya yawned. "Just water, maybe, and something sweet." Jake disappeared into the station. Maya leaned against the minivan, trying to shake off the strange feeling. The silence was oppressive, amplifying every tiny sound. The distant chirping, the soft click of the pump, and a new, faint sound, a whisper, just at the edge of hearing, like dry leaves rustling. She glanced around. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction, dotted with skeletal bushes. No other lights, no other cars. Just them and the gulp and go. Minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity. Jake was taking too long. Maya peered through the grimy windows of the station. She could just make out his silhouette talking to Jedediah. It looked like a normal conversation, but the man's posture seemed too still. Finally, Jake emerged carrying a few bags. He looked a little paler, a little more tired than when he went in. His eyes seemed a bit unfocused. "Everything okay?" Maya asked, a knot forming in her stomach. Jake blinked. "Yeah? Fine. Just, Jedediah's a bit of a talker. And the snacks are limited. Got you a dusty bag of chips." He handed it to her with a weak smile. Maya, who had been trying to get her phone to turn on, suddenly frowned. "Hey, my phone's completely dead now. And I swear it was at 70% a minute ago." "Mine too," Jake mumbled, though it wasn't particularly cold. He seemed to brush off their concerns too easily. He looked around, a vague confusion on his face. Did I already pay?" "No, you just got back," Maya said, her unease growing. "The pump's still going." Jake looked at the pump, then back at the station. "Right, I'll go pay." He walked back towards the entrance, his steps a little heavier than before. As he disappeared, Maya let out a small gasp. "Jake, look!" She pointed at her reflection in the minivan window. Her face, usually vibrant and full of life, seemed a shade duller, her eyes a little less bright. "I feel tired, really tired, like I haven't slept in days." Maya looked at her own reflection. It wasn't as drastic as she described, but she could see it too, a subtle draining of color, a faint hollowness around her eyes. The feeling of that invisible string being pulled from her chest intensified, now accompanied by a faint, persistent ache behind her eyes. Jake returned a few moments later. He looked even worse. His movements were sluggish, his eyes glassy. He fumbled with the minivan door. "Jake, are you okay?" Maya asked, genuinely alarmed. He nodded slowly, his gaze distant. "Yeah, just really tired," Jedediah said. "He said the air out here does that to people. Drains them." He laughed, a short, humorless sound. "Drains them dry." The pump clicked, signaling it was full. The low hum died, replaced by an unnerving silence. Maya quickly pulled out the nozzle and hung it back. She didn't want to be near it a second longer. "Let's go," she urged, her voice hushed. "Now." They piled into the minivan. Jake put the key in the ignition. He turned it. Nothing. He tried again. A weak click. "No, no, no." Jake groaned, thumping the steering wheel. "Not now. We just filled up." "Maybe it's the battery?" Maya suggested, her voice thin. "Mine's completely dead now." Maya's heart hammered. This wasn't just bad luck. This was wrong. The gas station was doing this. It was taking their energy, their vitality, and now it was taking their ability to leave. "I'll go ask Jedediah," Jake said, already pushing open the door. He seemed to have forgotten he'd just been inside. "No. Jake, wait." Maya grabbed his arm, but he pulled away, his eyes vacant. He stumbled towards the station, a hollow shell of his former self. "What's happening?" Maya whimpered, her face pale. "I feel so weak, Jake. I can barely think." Maya looked at her brother, then at the gas station. The flickering sign seemed to mock them, its green letters now appearing to pulse with a sickly glow. She had to do something. She couldn't let it take them. She got out of the minivan, her legs trembling. The cold, draining sensation was stronger now, like a desperate hand reaching into her. She looked at the pump, then at the station building. The windows seemed to pulse faintly with a dim, sickly green light. Jake had disappeared inside. Maya took a deep breath and followed him. The interior of the Gulp and Go was even more unsettling up close. Dust motes danced in the single, bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. Shelves were lined with ancient, unidentifiable snacks, their wrappers faded and brittle. The air was thick with the smell of stale gasoline and something else, something metallic and sweet, like old blood. Jedediah stood behind the counter, his back to her, seemingly examining a dusty jar of pickled eggs. Jake was nowhere to be seen. "Jedediah," Maya called out, her voice barely a whisper. The man turned slowly. His eyes, once merely dull, now glowed with that same sickly green light she'd seen in the windows. A wide, unsettling smile stretched across his thin lips, revealing teeth that were too long, too sharp. "Ah, the last one," he rasped. His voice no longer just dry leaves, but a chorus of whispers, a hungry murmur. "Come closer, child. The station hungers." Maya instinctively recoiled. "Where's Jake? What have you done?" Jedediah chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "He's contributing. They all do. You see, this old place, it doesn't just sell fuel. Needs it. Not gasoline, no. Something far more precious. It needs life, energy, the vitality it feeds on." He gestured around the dusty store. "Every traveler who stops here, every drop of gas they pump, they pay a different kind of toll. A little bit of their youth, a sliver of their joy, a memory, a dream, just enough to keep the old place running, to keep me running." Maya's blood ran cold. The draining sensation wasn't just fatigue. It was real. It was the station feeding. "You're a monster," she choked out. Jedediah merely smiled, his glowing eyes fixed on her. "A necessity. The road is long, child. And some things need to be sustained. Your brother Jake. He had so much energy, so much hope. A rich meal for the gulp and go." He took a step from behind the counter, his movements unnaturally fluid for someone so old. Maya backed away, her eyes darting around for an escape. There was a door behind the counter, perhaps leading to a back room. "You can't escape the toll," Jedediah whispered, his voice now directly in her ear, though he hadn't moved. "It's already begun. Feel it, child? The emptiness? The fading?" Maya did feel it. A profound sense of loss. A dull ache where her vibrant memories of the road trip should have been. She tried to recall Jake's silly jokes, her parents' faces, but they felt distant, muted, like old photographs fading in the sun. "No!" she screamed, a surge of desperate anger overriding her fear. She knew she couldn't fight Jedediah, but she had to try to save herself. She spun around and bolted for the front door. Jedediah didn't move, but his laughter echoed, filling the small space, a chilling, multi-layered sound. She burst out into the night. The minivan was still there, but Jake was slumped against the steering wheel, utterly still. His skin was ashen, his lips blue. His eyes were open, but empty, devoid of light. "Jake!" Maya cried, rushing to the minivan. She shook her brother, but there was no response. Jake was a husk. The station had taken everything. A wave of despair threatened to overwhelm Maya, but then a flicker of something else ignited within her, pure, unadulterated rage. She wouldn't let this place win. She wouldn't let Jake's sacrifice be in vain. She looked at the minivan. The keys were still in the ignition. She had to try. She jumped into the driver's seat, her hands shaking as she gripped the steering wheel. She turned the key. Click. Again. Click. The station seemed to hum louder now, a triumphant, siphoning sound. The air around her felt heavy, pressing down, trying to drain the last vestiges of her will. She could feel her own memories slipping, like sand through her fingers. The name of her hometown, her parents' faces, her favorite song, all became hazy, indistinct. Jedediah appeared in the doorway of the station, his glowing eyes fixed on her, his smile wider than before. He raised a hand, and the very ground seemed to vibrate. "Give in, child," he rasped. "It's easier. A full tank for the road ahead. A full tank for the gulp and go." Maya squeezed her eyes shut, fighting against the encroaching emptiness. She thought of Jake, of everything they had lost. She wouldn't let this be her end. She wouldn't let this place consume her. And then, with a sputtering cough, the engine roared to life. It was a weak, rattling sound, but it was glorious. Maya slammed the minivan into reverse, tires squealing on the cracked asphalt. Jedediah let out a frustrated hiss, his form shimmering in the dim light. He lunged forward, his arms stretching, impossibly long, towards the minivan. But Maya was faster. She floored the accelerator, sending the minivan lurching backward, then spinning around in a tight arc. The man screamed, a sound of pure fury and hunger, as the minivan shot past him, narrowly missing him. She sped out of the gas station lot, tires kicking up dust and gravel. She didn't look back. She couldn't. She drove, her vision blurred by tears and the fading light of her own memories. The highway stretched before her, still dark, still desolate, but now it felt like a path to freedom, not a trap. She drove until the sun began to paint the sky with bruised purples and oranges, until the gas gauge was once again dangerously low, until her mind felt like a vast, echoing cavern. She pulled over on the shoulder of the road, the minivan running on fumes. She looked at Jake, still slumped beside her, a shell. He was gone, taken by the gulp and go. Maya felt a profound, aching emptiness. She had escaped, but she wasn't whole. The gas station had taken something from her, something she could never get back. Her joy, her carefree spirit, a piece of her past. They were gone, consumed by the hungry entity that masqueraded as a roadside stop. She started the minivan again, the engine miraculously catching. She had to keep going. She had to find her way home, even if home felt a little less familiar now. As the sun rose higher, casting long shadows across the desert, Maya glanced in her rearview mirror. In the distance, a faint, flickering light pulsed in the pre-dawn gloom. The gulp and go. Still there. Still waiting. Tonight, the gas station wasn't just selling fuel. It was taking something. And it would continue to take silently, hungrily, from every unsuspecting traveler who dared to pull in for a fill-up on that desolate road. And Maya, forever marked by its touch, knew she would never truly be full again.